COVID-19 has thrown the entire country into a seemingly unending state of instability, so it's not surprising that some players decided it was in their best interest to sit out the rest of the season. But for those who did make the trip to Disney World, it will still take a monumental effort to successfully pull off what's planned for the next few months. Today, we're going to go over the NBA players who opted out of going to the bubble, as well as the conditions inside the bubble for those who will still be competing this summer. Be sure to stay until the end of the video to find out all of the facts about these players' living situations and the guidelines they must follow right now. And remember to subscribe for more NBA content. Regardless of the coronavirus, many players have announced they're sitting out the rest of the season due to prior injuries. That list contains many of the league's stars, including Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, and John Wall. Mid-level players like the Utah Jazz's Bojan Bogdanovic and the Phoenix Suns' Kelly Oubre will also forego participating in order to nurse injuries. The San Antonio Spurs' LaMarcus Aldridge announced a shoulder surgery that will sideline him for the rest of the year as well. The Spurs, who are 4 games back of the 8th-seeded Memphis Grizzlies, will probably end up losing their 22-season postseason streak now. Indiana Pacers guard Victor Oladipo has told the press that he would be sitting out the restart, but conflicting reports have emerged stating that he could reconsider after feeling good in some of the Pacers' practices. Indiana is currently the 5th seed in the Eastern Conference, and the presence of Oladipo could be the difference between a first-round exit and a real postseason run. In March of 2019, Portland Trail Blazers center Jusuf Nurkic suffered a severe compound fracture in his left leg. However, he was deemed healthy enough to come back right before the season was suspended and never got a chance to play. Nurkic has said that he's ready to play again this summer, but it remains to be seen whether he'll assume a starting role again or ever really be the same player. If he can return to form, the Trail Blazers have a real chance of stealing the 8th seed from Memphis. At the same time, many players made the decision to opt out of the season and forego their salaries for more personal reasons. The Brooklyn Nets in particular were hit hard. Not only will they be without Durant and Irving, but Spencer Dinwiddie, DeAndre Jordan, Taurean Prince, and Wilson Chandler have all opted out as well. Chandler will be staying home to focus on preserving the health of his family, and Jordan, Prince, and Dinwiddie were essentially forced to opt out when they all tested positive for COVID-19 shortly before the team started practicing. The Nets are currently in playoff position in the 7th spot in the Eastern Conference, but they could easily fall out of the postseason in light of this news. The Orlando Magic will have a fully healthy roster, and the Wizards have many young players who are prepared to show off their game in Orlando. Of all the teams in the NBA, COVID-19 took the hardest toll on Brooklyn. Speaking of the Wizards, Washington lost star forward Davis Bertans in one of the first series of opt-outs as well. Bertans is set to become one of the most highly sought-after free agents in the league after this season, so it doesn't make sense for him to risk an injury playing for the 9th-seeded Wizards. On top of his absence, the Wizards will also be without superstar shooting guard Bradley Beal in Orlando. Beal decided to opt out due to a lingering rotator cuff injury that hampered him throughout the season, so his announcement came as a bit of a surprise. The Wizards' outlook in the bubble isn't bright, seeing as they'll have to lean on guys like Rui Hachimura, Thomas Bryant, and Ish Smith for production. Though the Trailblazers will likely have Nurkic and forward Zach Collins back on the floor in Orlando, they'll have to play without veteran forward Trevor Ariza. Ariza is in the midst of a custody case over his son, so he chose to spend a month of visitation with him instead of traveling to the bubble. NBA players aren't allowed to bring family members with them to the bubble, so he chose to stay with his son. The Blazers will miss his experience and solid production, as Ariza was averaging 11 points and 4.8 rebounds as of March. Perhaps the most significant opt-out for a title contender occurred when Avery Bradley announced he wouldn't be traveling to the bubble to compete with the Los Angeles Lakers. The dual-threat shooting guard's son has a history of struggling to recover from respiratory illnesses, so Bradley chose to remain on the safe side by opting out. He was averaging 8.6 points and 24 minutes per game for the Lakers this season. Willie Cauley-Stein, who was traded to the Dallas Mavericks mid-season, has also opted out of going to the bubble because his partner is expecting a baby in July. The 7th-seeded Mavericks will miss him sorely, and they'll have to rely almost exclusively on Kristaps Porzingis and Boban Marjanovic to handle rebounding duties. Dallas has one of the strongest offenses in the NBA, but their defense could struggle without Cauley-Stein patrolling the paint. Finally, veteran Houston Rockets forward Thabo Sefolosha decided not to make the trip to the bubble either. He did not provide a reason, but his absence shouldn't be affected by the Rockets' chances of making a deep postseason run. Sefolosha was playing just 10.6 minutes per game before the season suspension. The rest of the players will still have to do an almost perfect job of following the rules laid out by the league for behavior in the bubble in order for the season not to get canceled. The players are all staying in hotels at Disney's Wide World of Sports complex, and they've been joined by NBA coaches, staff, journalists, and other logistical personnel. Anyone entering the bubble must quarantine for 48 hours and register 2 negative COVID-19 tests, and any players who decide to leave in the middle of the season must undergo a 10-day quarantine and test negative twice when they return. If they follow that protocol, they would be able to return to their teams and continue playing. Inside the bubble, everyone is getting tested nightly so they can see the results the next morning. Any player who tests positive will be required to quarantine for at least 7 days in isolated housing. They will have to register consecutive negative tests in order to return to playing. The NBA is expecting to keep the number of positive tests low so they will not have to deal with an outbreak that could potentially result in the cancellation of the season. Every player has the option of wearing an Aura Smart Ring, which is a biometric device that can help detect COVID-19 early by measuring temperature, respiratory, and heart rate and other data. In addition, all team and league staff are being required to wear a proximity alarm that goes off if they're within 6 feet of another person wearing the alarm for more than 5 seconds. The alarm is another optional measure for the players. The league has asked players to only interact with people in their own hotel prior to the start of inter-squad scrimmages on July 22nd and to take social distancing measures into consideration when they are near others outside of their hotel. It is mandatory for all of the players to wear a face mask in every common area unless they are eating or exercising, and they are not allowed to go into each other's hotel rooms. The NBA has also provided an anonymous hotline for players to report any violations of the rules that they might witness, and reports have already surfaced detailing some of them calling it. The league and the players have agreed that players are allowed to leave the bubble in the case of extenuating circumstances such as the birth of a child, a death in the family, or any other kind of medical or familial emergency. New Orleans Pelicans rookie Zion Williamson has already had to leave the bubble due to a family emergency, so he'll have to enter into quarantine if he returns in time to play. Boston Celtics forward Gordon Hayward is also expecting his partner to have a baby sometime in the coming months, so he may have to leave the bubble during the postseason. Some players have complained about their hotel rooms and the food provided to them, but the NBA seems to be doing a great job of offering them the best possible conditions in which to finish the season. Besides, the players have much bigger problems to worry about regarding their time in the bubble. The league seems confident that they'll be able to prevent a COVID-19 outbreak, but the possibility will always be there. It will take a concerted effort and a lot of self-discipline from everyone in the bubble for the NBA to successfully complete this regular season and make it all the way through the playoffs. Remember to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss out on content, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care.